Hi, good evening, everybody. Shall we make a start, Adrian?
Yeah. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, Adrian.
Right, okay. Shall I do a little bit of housekeeping? I see some of you have found the chat box. So you will see three buttons in front of you. You should see three buttons, whether you're on your phone or your laptop. You'll see a button which is a little raised hand button. So if you all have a quick practice of pressing your raise hand button. Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 of you, 7, 8, 10. Yeah, nearly all got it. Yeah, so that button allows you to raise your hand, and then if you press it again, it lowers your hand. So Elizabeth's going to be using that across the session to get some interactivity from you all. So the other button you can see there is the chat button. So the chat button allows you to send messages to everybody or to individuals who are in the webinar. So if you've kind of got something to kind of tell us, put that in the chat box. Elizabeth will be asking you to post things in the chat box across the next hour. And I see some of you have got some kind of points there. Somebody said you've got, I can't see your microphone button. Yeah, with a webinar, your microphone and your camera are turned off. So the way that we're going to ask you to interact with us is through your raised hand, through the chat box, or through the next one I'm going to talk about, your final button, which is the question and answer button. So for the Q&A button, that's your place where you can ask us a question, and we are going to pause the webinar or pause at 2 points, and Elizabeth is going to answer those questions. If you see somebody's question that you quite like, then give it a thumbs up. By giving us a thumbs up, that tells us that the question's quite important, and we'll ask that one first. So just in case we've got some time limits, if we don't manage to answer all of your questions during the webinar, then what we'll do is a little Q&A sheet, which we'll send out at the end of it. So that kind of brings us to our kind of next point, is that you don't need to take any notes of what you see on the screen, because we'll send the slide deck out with a couple of other things at the end of the webinar. So you'll probably get that tomorrow sometime. So we have got a lot to get through. So it's my job to kind of make sure that we stick to time. So I'll be trying to do that myself. Treat this space like you would any other meeting. If you want to say hello to other people in the chat box, then please do that as well. We could have put the last line in there, expecting a parcel. So we shouldn't get any parcels delivered to the doors at this time of night. But it's also just to acknowledge that, you know, we might get interruptions because we're all working or joining this in our own home spaces. So yeah, just, you know, to be mindful and a little bit forgiving if we need to as well. So I think I'll hand over to you now, Elizabeth. I'm going to turn my video off and then come back on a little bit later.
Thanks, Adrian. Thank you very much. Oh, I've got a very sensitive mouse. I've got a new mouse. It's very sensitive, so I'm going to apologise for that in advance. Lovely to be here this evening, and thank you all for taking the time out of your busy lives to join us this evening. It's great that so many of you can be here. I'm not expecting a parcel this evening, sadly. I do like parcel days, but my son's been shopping on Wish, so our doors, wish.com, so our doors still may go. I've also got a little small dog called Tilda, who loses it every time the door goes. So if that happens, I'm just going to apologise in advance. Okay, so now to a proper introduction. My name's Elizabeth. I'm a training and development worker for Answer Cancer. I've probably met some of you before, and some of you won't know me, so hello to those who've met me before, and hello to the ones who are new to meeting me. I've been promoting cancer awareness to communities for the past 7 years, and before that I worked as a volunteer coordinator, promoting positive volunteering opportunities for individuals and organisations with Volunteer Centre Salford. So this role's a great mixture of the two, and I get to do two things that I'm really quite passionate about. On another note, my family, like most families, has been adversely affected by cancer, and because of that, and I am very passionate about what I do. I kind of like to think that I could make a difference somewhere to someone's family somewhere down the line. So Anti-Cancer is the working title for the Greater Manchester Cancer Screening Programme. The programme set up to increase screening uptake in communities where screening uptake is low. I'm not medically trained, and you don't have to be a cancer champion. And we encourage cancer champions not to go into their role with them and thinking they are medically trained. We encourage them to refer on to the GP where and when necessary. We don't expect cancer champions to try and diagnose people at all. This session is aimed at promoting awareness of signs and symptoms and promoting positive factual messages regarding cancer awareness, and that hopefully you'll be able to share with others. Okay, so just moving on. So we're going to start with a little bit of an icebreaker to get us warmed up a bit and get us a bit more familiar with how the interactive part of the session will work. The interactive bits are meant to be just bring a little bit of fun and engage and be a bit more engaging. So it'd be great if you could join in. Some of you will find this easier than others, and some of this will depend on whether you're using a laptop or a smartphone. Don't stress too much about joining in if you're struggling. It's meant to be fun. But there are some parts that we'd really value your participation in. But I'll highlight them to you along the way. And if you can join in at those points, that would be great. Okay, so Adrian's already explained how the Q&A will work. So any questions you can think of throughout the session, be sure to put them in the Q&A box, because we will be stopping to take questions and answers, and I'll be giving answers. You're going to keep the chat going in the chat box. So all I've got left to do, Adrian showed you the reaction buttons, so I'm just going to go over the reaction buttons again, and I'll introduce how the polls will work. So let's get started. How are we all feeling today? So raise your hand if you're feeling good and ready for this training session. We've got 9 of us are ready, 10 of us feeling good and ready, 11, 12, 13, fantastic. I'm ready for it too. That's great, thank you. You can lower your hands now. So we'll do something a little bit different. We'll have a quick game of would you rather. So we're going to use the chat box now, just to show how we can use the chat box. So I'm going to ask a question. So get your chat boxes up. I'm going to ask a question. Would you rather live on the beach or live in a cabin in the woods? So write your comments in the chat box, either cabin in the woods, you could just put in the woods, or cabin or beach. Let's see where we'd all rather live. So I'm just going to look. In the woods, in the woods. In the woods is popular today, beach. In the woods, that's really interesting. In the woods, that's so interesting. Yesterday everybody wanted to live on a beach. Oh, we've got a few beaches, but predominantly in the woods this evening. Yeah, how interesting. I'm kind of a bit of both. I like a beach, but then the sand gets on my nerves, and then I like the woods, but then all the flies get on my nerves, so sometimes I don't think there's any pleasing me. And thank you very much for doing that. So next up, we'll try out a poll. So let me get the polls up. These are just simple. You just click on the answer that you want to, and then we'll have a look at the results. So let me just launch this poll. So the question is, would you rather teleport? If you had a special power, would you rather teleport or read minds? So just click on one of the answers you want to. Okay. We've got maybe a few of you. We'll give you another 10 seconds for some of you to vote. There's still some of you not voting, but that's fine if you're having trouble joining in, or you're busy doing something. That's fine. Okay. So I think probably that's as good as we're going to get. That's interesting. Let me just share the results of that with you. So as you can see, we've got a lot of people tonight who, if they could, would like to read each other's minds. How interesting. I'm definitely a teleporter. Yeah, teleport into the future and tell you how all this works out. Brilliant, thank you very much for that. So that's just some of the interactive parts that we'll kind of be doing this evening. Okay, so let me stop that. Okay, so moving on to the session. So today's session, so by the end of today's training session, participants will have a greater understanding of the common facts and myths surrounding cancer, have knowledge of where to find credible sources of information to pass on to others. We'll briefly cover a few risk factors and how to reduce them, and we'll see how easy it is to become an anti-cancer champion and what that involves. Then lastly, we'll make a plan to share learning with others and turn learning into practice. Don't worry about this last bit, I'll talk you through it when we get to it. Okay, so pre-session awareness scores. So for all our training sessions, we like to measure people's confidence, knowledge and understanding of cancer before we start training, to see where they start from, and then we'll do it again at the end to see if there's been any movement and any increase in their confidence, knowledge and understanding. So we're going to do that again by using the polls. We'll answer three quick questions. It should only take a minute. So I'll launch the polls in a second. The questions are, how confident do you feel? And then there's one on understanding and there's one on knowledge. So the questions are ranked between 1 and 7. 1 is not very confident, and 4's moderately confident, and 7's extremely confident. And you mark yourself where you think you're at between 1 to 7 on all 3 questions. And the 1 and the 4 and the 7, there's words against them, but you don't have to use those. They're just kind of guides to guide you. You can vote 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 if that's where you think you're at. Okay, it'll make more sense once I actually launch them. So let me just do that now. So also, to get on to the next question, there's a scroll bar down the right hand side of your screen. So you just scroll down to the next question and answer the next question, and there's 3 questions there for you. So do you want to start voting now? Is that, oh, and not voting, sorry, filling them in? I don't understand. Okay, so we've got a few questions to answer, a few answered 1. And this would be the part of the training session which would really like you all to join in if you can. And to those who are able to, this is one of those moments when we really would, because this is how we measure the effectiveness of our training, is the distance that people move. So if you're able to at this point, please do join in. Okay, so you just choose one answer between 1 and 7, and the prompts represent where you feel you best are now. Okay, so I'll give you just a minute. So some of you should be up to question 3 now. Do you have a good understanding about the cancer screening programs? Just rate yourself between 1 and 7. I'll give you another. I can see people still doing it, so yeah, that's fine. I'll give you another 30 seconds. Okay, so you're just going to scroll down the poll, and you'll be able to see the rest of the questions and just answer where you think you are. And I'll share the results with you shortly. Hopefully we'll see some improvement at the end. Okay, another 10 seconds and then we'll close the polls. Sounds like the government, doesn't it, closing polls? Okay, I'm going to close them now. Thank you very much for your time. So I'm going to end the polling. And I'll share the results. So we've got a mixture again. So if you take a minute to have a look through them. So we've got quite a few moderately confident and upwards for confidence, which is great. Knowledge across the board there, and understanding again across the board. So hopefully, like I said, at the end, we'll have some movement on those going in the right direction. So thanks again for taking part in that. Okay, so let's get cracking with today's session. So remember, if you've got any questions throughout, use the Q&A box, because at the end of this, we're going to take 5 minutes to answer the question. So first up, mobile phones. So use your reaction buttons. Raise your hand if you think mobile phones can cause cancer. If you think that's a fact, put your hand up. If you think it's myth, keep your hand down. So we've got 3 hands up, 5 hands up. So if you think it's true, put your hand up. Okay. So we've got a few up and downers there. Okay. So that's actually a myth. We've had mobile phones around now for most of us have had them for about 20 years. Thank you very much to all those who raised their hands. You can put your hands down now. We've had mobile phones around for most of us for 20 years. I think they've been around for probably closer to 25, maybe even 30 years. There's been research studies, numerous tests. There's been study after study on mobile phones, and there's been no credible evidence today to suggest that mobile phones are linked to cancer. That's as the evidence stands today. We don't know in the future if new technologies get introduced, the effects that they'll have, because we don't have a crystal ball and we can't see into the future, so we don't know what the future holds. But right now, as it stands with our mobile phones, they are safe to use. We'd have known about it a lot sooner if people started having cancer linked to mobile phones. So that one's a myth. Okay, so thank you for those who voted. So this is one. So again, we're going to put our hands up. Put your hand up if you think people from Black, Asian and minority backgrounds are more likely to get cancer. So if you think this is a fact, put your hand up. If you think it's not, put your hand down. If you think it's a myth, keep your hand down. Okay? So hand up if you think this is a fact. If you think it's true, keep it down if it's not. Okay. So I'll give you a second. Okay. So we've got quite a few of you who've raised your hands for this one. Quite a lot. Eight of people have raised their hands for this one. That's great. This one, I'm going to stop now, so you can lower your hands. Thank you. This one is actually true. People from those backgrounds are more likely to have poorer health outcomes than non-BME people. There's so many factors influencing this. It's hard to cover them all here, but a few of the factors are that people from these backgrounds are less likely to have access to health service, and they're less likely to access health service. There's lower awareness of signs and symptoms. They have lower health knowledge in some communities. So that means they present at the doctors later. So they present when some of the symptoms are worse, when the symptomatic. So because they're presenting later, the outcomes are worse, because we know that early detection saves lives. The earlier you detect a cancer, the better your treatment outcomes, and the better your life expectancy. So that's one of the factors. Another factor is there's a lower uptake of screening within some communities. We know that only 50% of Asian women attend for their breast screen. So because they're not attending for the breast screen, those changes and those smaller cancers aren't being picked up at that screening opportunity like they would with some other communities. So it means those smaller cancers are then able to grow into bigger cancers, and again that affects treatment outcomes. So yeah, unfortunately, people from Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds are more likely to get cancer and have worse health outcomes from cancer. So next up, being a woman. So put your hand up if you think being a woman makes you more likely to get cancer. If you think it's a fact, if you think it's true, put your hand up. If you think it's a myth, keep your hand down. Okay. So we've got 9 people raise their hand. Yeah, 11. This is good. 12. Yeah, absolutely. So It's true. It's true. It's true for certain cancers. Just by the way we're built. So yeah, it's absolutely true, because women can get breast cancer, we can get cervical cancer, and we can get ovarian cancer. And we know that breast cancer is the most common cancer in the UK. But also breast cancer has great treatment outcomes if it's caught early. I think it's something like 98% of women live 5 years or longer, and that's because they stop measuring at 5 years if the cancers are caught early enough. In the stage 1, how they classify the stages, at stage 1 they have a 5-year life expectancy, but a lot go on to live a lot longer. So yeah, again, early detection always saves lives. Okay, so next up, this one's a funny one. Can wearing flip-flops cause cancer? So put your hands up. Raise your hand if you think wearing flip-flops can cause cancer. If you think it's a fact, raise your hand. If you think it's a myth, keep your hand down. Okay. So we've got a few who've raised the hand, and a lot who've kept it down. Well, it's actually a myth. So congrats to all those who kept it down. Wearing flip-flops in itself isn't going to cause cancer, and you can wear flip-flops in you're more likely to have a trip or a health hazard wearing a trip or a fall wearing flip-flops than getting cancer. But what it is it's when we normally wear flip-flops in the sunshine, and it's our exposure to sunshine that can cause cancer. So the two are kind of linked in a strange way, but wearing flip-flops on their own, not going to cause cancer. It's your exposure to UV rays and UV sun, and you just need to tan safely, because we know exposure to UV rays can increase your risk of sun cancer. So moving on, this is one that always causes a little bit of controversy. I know this time we'll mix it up a little bit, so you can use your chat box for this one. So if you think that drinking from plastic bottles can cause cancer, right? Fact if you think it's true, or myth if you think it's false. So write that in your chat box, and we'll see what we're thinking. Okay. So we've got people putting in their chat box. So this is we're not raising our hands for this one. We're putting our answers in the chat box if we're able to. Okay, so let me just click on the chat box. Some people think it's fact. Let me see what the others. Fact, myth, fact, true. Okay, it always causes a little bit of controversy, this one. Okay, so I'm just going to close that chat box. This one's a myth. I can see how people get mixed up, but it is a myth. There's no reliable evidence. They've done numerous tests, numerous studies. No, there's nothing credible, but yeah, it does the rounds, and there's a lot of stories on the internet about how this myth, that perpetuate the myth. And the myth is that chemicals leak in the hot sun. So if you leave your bottle of water in your car and the sun gets to it, it can increase your risk of getting cancer or something like that. No, you're more likely, if you leave a bottle of water in the hot sun, to get a dodgy tummy because the water goes bad, and yeah, you get sick from that. You need extreme heat for chemicals to leak into something. So just the hot sun through your car window wouldn't do it. Some people think that the chemicals that are found in plastics, chemicals like bisphenol, which is a BPA, can get into our food or drink and then cause cancer. Even though some studies have found that certain chemicals in plastics can end up in things that we may eat or drink, the levels that end up in there are so low, and they're within a range that's considered safe to humans. So even when they've done experiments where plastics are exposed to extreme temperatures for hours at end, the studies have found that the levels are still safe for humans. So this one's a myth, I'm afraid. But it always does the rounds and it always comes up. And this is as the evidence stands today. Okay, if they find something in the future, we can't go into the future, but as the evidence stands today, this is, they've done so many tests, so many research studies on it, and they've not found any credible evidence. Okay, so this is a controversial one. Next up is stress. So we're going to use our reaction buttons again. So raise your hand if you think stress can increase your risk of getting cancer. So raise your hand if you think yes, keep your hand down if you think it's a myth. Okay, so up for true, down if you think it's a myth, if you think it's false. Okay, so we've got a mixed bag on this one. Half of us do and half of us don't. Yeah, again, I can understand why. This one's actually a myth. Stress doesn't increase our risk of getting cancer. Stress is too subjective to measure. What may be stressful for me might not be stressful to you. Some people excel under stress and others don't fare too well. What it is, it's the behaviours that we indulge in when we're stressed that increase our risk of cancers. So for instance, we might drink more when we're under stress. We might smoke more if we're a smoker. We probably don't eat as healthy as we should. We probably adopt a more unhealthy lifestyle. We may even take less exercise because they're the first things that go when we're under stress. And it's those behaviours that increase our chances of getting cancer. So it's not the stress, it's the behaviours that come as a result of that. And each of those behaviours add an extra layer of risk. So if you drink and smoke, eat unhealthy, take less exercise, you're increasing your risk all the time. So that one's a myth. So this is another interesting one. And for this, we're going to use a poll. So I'll launch a poll and you just choose one, whether you think using artificial sweeteners can increase your risk of cancer or whether you think it's a myth. So let me find the poll and I will launch it now. Okay, so you're just going to choose one, whether you think using artificial sweeteners is true or whether you think it's a myth. So I'll just give you, you're all super hot tonight, super quick on these reaction buttons, so we don't really need much time to vote because you're so quick at it and so good at it, so which is fantastic. Right, there's a lot of you out there voting, which is great. 16 of you have managed to vote. Fantastic, thank you. It's great to see so many of you part. 17, hooray for number 17. Thank you. So I'm going to end the poll and I'll share the results. So as you can see, most of you think that 14 of you think it's a myth and 3 of you think it's true. So I'm just going to get rid of that and get rid of that. Okay, so it's a myth. So a lot of you are right, it is a myth, but it's a myth that's been around for absolutely ages. It's linked to a chemical called aspartame. Lots and lots of research studies have been conducted, but again today there's no, oh sorry, something's just happened on my screen, but again today there's no credible, reliable evidence. Okay, but this is one that keeps doing the rounds all the time, and when I actually do training in real life, this is one of those that cause a little bit of attention because there's so many stories out on the internet regarding this one, but they're not from a credible source and they're not researched or evidence-based. Okay, so thank you very much for that. So next up, being a man. So raise your hand if you think being a man increases your risk of cancer. So if you think that's true, raise your hand. If you think it's false, keep it down. Okay, so you're voting quite quickly. I'll just give you time to keep raising your hands for the ones who do want to. Another 5 minutes and we'll, not 5 minutes, sorry, another 5 seconds. And then, okay. So I think that's it. All right, so thank you very much. You can lower your hands now. So that is actually a fact. Yeah, Men, sadly, are at greater risk of cancer. Like women, just by their anatomy, they're at risk of certain cancers, more at risk of certain cancers. They're more at risk of prostate cancer, and that's the second largest, most common cancer in the UK. It's quickly catching up breast cancer, and people predict that quite soon prostate cancer will be the most common cancer in the UK. Men are less likely to visit the doctor. I don't know whether that's part of being a man. They just present less, or they sit on the symptoms a little bit longer. They usually visit the doctor when they're more symptomatic. So that means they go to they leave things a little bit later than women would. They go later. And because they're visiting the doctor when they're later, there's less treatment options available to them. Therefore, they have poorer health outcomes. So sadly, yeah, men are at greater risk. And also, men are more at risk of getting bowel cancer than women. 56% of new bowel cancer cases are in men, as opposed to 44% in women. And also, just 53% of men complete their bowel cancer screening tests, compared with 58% of women. So for bowel screening, less are completing the kits, the bowel screening tests that they get sent in the post. So those cancers aren't caught early as they are in women. So again, treatment options and outcomes don't fare as well. And we know that early detection saves lives. Okay, so this is a funny one. Can eating pizza increase your risk of getting cancer? So put your hand up if you think it's a fact, and keep your hand down if you think it's a myth. Okay, so we've got a few raised hands. I'll give you another second for those who may want to raise a hand. Okay. Okay. Eating pizza doesn't increase your risk. It's a myth. But having a poorer diet over time will increase your risk. So the pizza is linked to the poorer diet, but it's not pizza in itself, because people can eat really healthy and just have a treat day and eat a pizza. So it's not the pizza in itself, it's what the pizza signifies, a poorer diet or a poorer dietary choice. We know that poorer diets over time can lead to obesity, and obesity significantly increases your risk. Also, obese people are less likely to exercise, so that can increase your risk of cancer. Therefore, the risks are just stacking up. Unhealthy diet leads to obesity, lack of exercise. So you can see we're getting a stacking effect there. So if we exercise more, if we eat better, keep our weight under control, our risks go down just as easy as they stack up. So it's good to think about that, make better eating choices. So this is an interesting one. Burnt food. So raise your hand if you think it's a fact, or keep it down if you think it's a myth. Raise your hand if you think eating burnt food can lead to cancer. Okay, I'll give you time to have a little vote there. Okay, at the end of this section, we'll be stopping to do some question and answers. So if you've got any question and answers, make sure you've put them in the Q&A box. Okay, so we've got a few people that have raised hands. Right, okay. Okay, this one's a myth again. It's not, eating burnt food isn't proven to increase your risk of cancer. It's a myth. Actually, you're more likely to get sick from undercooked food than overcooked food. Burnt food, it's just carbon. Some restaurants even deliberately burn your foods, and that's a trend these days, believe it or not. There's a chemical in burnt toast or burnt potatoes called acrylamide. Okay, the chemical is naturally found in foods, mainly carbohydrates like bread and potatoes, if they've been cooked at high temperatures for a long time. But studies of people have not shown that eating more foods higher in acrylamide increases your cancer risk. So they've done studies time and again, and there's no evidence to suggest eating burnt foods can increase your risk of cancer. People think it's very carcinogenic and it's going to have a negative effect and it will increase your risk, but the studies have shown it's not. I wouldn't go burning all your food, not for your cancer risk, but because it won't taste nice. But if you accidentally burn some food and you don't mind the taste of it, feel free to eat it. And I actually thought that one was true. I've not eaten a piece of burnt toast since forever in all my life, I don't think, because of how much I believe that one. And now I don't eat it because I don't like the taste of it. But yeah, eating burnt food won't increase your risk of cancer. So that brings us on to our questions and answers. So over to you, Adrian. Have we got any questions and answers so far?
No, we have obviously some shy attendees or people who don't have any questions. There's one question which I did answer, which was, do you get a copy of the presentation? And yes, you do. We'll send a copy of the slides out in one of our emails following up this session.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's going to be some links and other things in that email. So yeah, it'll be one big fat email full of all this information that you need. So yeah, thank you. Okay. So thanks for that, Adrian. That was easy. Bye. See you in a minute. So it's important. So now we've looked at a lot of common facts and myths that are in our heads and in our world, and we just think, wow, there's a lot of things that can cause cancer, but where do we get all this information from? So now information is, we're on information overload. So it's important to think about where we get our information from. We get a lot of information from the internet, and the internet's got as much fake news as in fact, it's got more fake news than it's got real news. We also get a lot from newspapers, passed on through family and friends. So it's important to be mindful of where we're getting our information from. There always seems to be a different story about cancer in the news. I think everything has been linked to causing cancer at some point, and more often than not, there's no scientific proof that any of the things reported on actually cause cancer. There's not been enough studies done. There's no scientific factual evidence. Okay, many headlines don't paint a clear picture of the full story, and this can be very confusing. Like the flip-flops, just like anything. Yeah, wearing flip-flops out in the sun, if you're out in the sun for a long time, that can cause cancer, but the flip-flops in themselves, no. So they don't quite paint the full picture. They just have a headline grabbing article that we go, and we tune in on, but sometimes there's more to the story. Okay, so there's lots of myths around what cause cancer, and there's many more myths around what cause cancer. They exist more than they do for other diseases, such as heart disease. You don't read about as many fake news stories about heart disease as you do about cancer, or diabetes, or strokes, or dementias, or any of the other big illnesses. It always seems to be cancer that takes the headlines. So it's the Daily Mail. They have a link on their website of over, I think it's about 100, 150 things that they think have been proven to cause cancer, and some of them in a roundabout way may be factual, but I wouldn't want to sort through 150 of those just to find the factual ones. And so just be mindful of where we get our evidence from. It's important that we get it from reliable, factual, evidence-based or research-based set websites. Okay, so we're just moving on. These are just a few examples of places you can go to get some good information from, to get some reliable information from. So if anybody tells you something about cancer, you can check these places out before you pass on that information, because it may be a myth that you're passing on. So there's a great NHS behind the scene headlines website. It's Cancer Research UK's website. If you had any symptoms or you wanted any further advice, you could ring the Cancer Researchers Nurse UK helpline. There's NHS, and there's also NHS Choices. Also, if you've got any queries about cancer or you want to know something, our pharmacists are a great resource that we don't really use at the moment as much as we should. So you could head to the pharmacy, but for me, my go-to is Cancer Research UK website. It gives all the scientific evidence-based, and it gives you the stories behind the evidence, and it's written in an easy way to understand. It's just written in a good way that most people can understand. Okay, so now we know a few facts and myths, and we know where to find some reliable and factual information from. So now we'll have a quick look at a couple of things that can increase our risk of getting cancer. Sorry about the chart. The first column, the no control over, that reads downwards, and then the other two columns, lifestyle risk factors and healthier choices, they read across. So there is a correlation between them, but there's not a correlation between all three. So apologies about that. I couldn't kind of get the information in a chart the way I wanted it, so I've done it this way. So let's have a look at some. So there's some risk factors we can't control. Our age. It's the way we're built. We're human. We're meant to age. We do know that age is one of the biggest risk factors when it comes to us getting cancer. The older we get, the more likely we are, the higher our risk goes of getting cancer. We've had a look at men getting cancer and women getting cancer, so we know that our gender plays into our risk of getting cancer. And there's some cancers men get, there's some cancers women get. So our gender, we can't do anything about our gender. We know that there's certain genes within families that can increase our risk of getting cancer. So men with a first degree relative who've had prostate cancer, they can be more at risk of getting prostate cancer. And women who've had a first degree relative who's had breast cancer or ovarian cancer, they're more at risk of getting that because there could be a gene that can be passed on there called the BRCA gene. We also know that bowel cancer, people who've had bowel cancer early in the family, not bowel cancers that we can get later in life, but people who've had early bowel cancers, that can be a sign that there's something going on within the family. So there are a few cancers that we get due to our family history. However, sometimes within families, it's the behaviours that families adopt that can increase their risk. So for instance, if one person eats unhealthy in the family, the chances are if the main person eats unhealthy, they may be cooking unhealthy food and feeding it to the rest of the family. So it increases that family's risks of obesity and those risks associated with family. We know that if somebody smokes in the family, well, being around somebody who smokes, passive smoking is not great, but also the children within that family are more likely to smoke themselves, or if you're around a drinker, those behaviours within families pass on throughout the generations. So family history, there's only a few cancers that are actually linked to genes, but sometimes within our families, it's our family's behaviours that can increase our risks. And then the last thing we have no control over is one that it said on the website called generic. So, and sadly, this refers to something that has no unique features, generic. That means, sadly, sometimes it just happens. So, and we've just got no control over it. So we can reduce our risk as much as we want, eat as healthy as we want, and have no risk in the family, all those things. And sometimes it can just happen. Sometimes this can happen with like more childhood cancers, they just happen. So it's really sad and it's really unfortunate, but sometimes that's just it. The scientists and the researchers don't know why it happens. Sometimes it just does. Okay. Then there's the risk factors that we can control, our lifestyle risk factors, our lifestyle choices, such as smoking, drinking, poor diet, up being overweight, low physical activity. And then there's some healthier choices at the side of what we can do again, because the more of the lifestyle risk factors we do, like I said before, the risks stack up. So if we cut back on smoking or cut out smoking, cut down our drinking, exercise more, eat healthy, the risks reduce. So it's important to do that, and maybe just adopt one healthier choice for now, and then build on that, and then whenever you're ready, adopt another one and another one. So I think you've all had a minute to have a look at that. So we'll move on. Okay. So this is a good part of our training. Okay. So making a plan. So this is something we'd like you all to participate in if you're able to. This would be great. Okay. Don't worry about it. I'm going to talk you through it. At Answer Cancer, we like to do our training and get everyone who takes part in the training to make a plan to show how they'll share their learning or something they've learned today with others. Or you can make a plan to develop your own skills and knowledge in cancer awareness further, so that in future you feel confident enough to share positive cancer awareness messages with others. So here's how we'll do it. Okay, so on the screen now, so just have a look at the screen, take a moment. There's a number of bullet points with suggestions for plans. So just have a look. These are just some minor suggestions. You don't have to do any of these. You can make up your mind to do your own plan. You can be as creative as you like, or you can keep it as simple as you like. Okay? So just think of something that you might think, oh, I could easily do that, or oh, I'm going to really commit and put a lot of effort in and try to do that. The choice is yours. So this is how we're going to produce our plan. We're going to do it in real time, so we're going to do it now. Okay, so we've already created the plan in an online form for you to use, and you can access it in two ways. Don't do it just yet. Okay, we're going to do it together. Okay, so for anyone who's on their laptop and you've got access to a phone, you can take out your phone, open up the camera, and just point it at the QR code, and that should take you to an online form. Okay, so any of us who've got a smartphone that can do that. Okay, you just need to make sure you've got the four corners of the QR code inside your screen, and it should open. Okay, and then for anyone who's using a smartphone, or for any of us who are a little bit more old school, you can click on the link in the on-screen chat box. Adrian, can you put the link in the chat box for me so they can use it? Thank you. So now we've decided which way we're going to do it. So let's do it together now. Don't worry about being away from the screen for me. You'll be able to hear me in the background. We're going to take 5 minutes to do it, and then we'll come back here, okay? So you'll hear my voice throughout, and I'm going to talk you through it. So open up the online form now, okay? So you should all be there. Hopefully you can hear my voice. Okay. So now you should be open on the first page of the plan. The first bit is some blurb about how we store your information and what the plan will be used for. It also explains that we're going to contact you again in a month or two to see how you've got on with completing your plan. And that's if you want us to, and you give us permission to. So click OK once you've read it. Okay. Next page is your name. Add your name and your email address, on what date you came on the training. Well, that's today's date, the 10th, but it should actually open up on today's date. So when you click through, it should open up on that. So then when you're done with that, just click next. Okay. So then I hope we're all keeping up. Okay. On the next screen, I'll give you a minute or two on this screen. So the next screen is what are you planning to do as a result of today? So if you've had a chance to have a think about it and you've got a plan in your head, you can write it down there. If you're struggling a bit, take a moment, okay, and see how you go. If nothing comes, don't panic, because what we'll do in a minute, I'll talk everyone else through the rest of this form, and we'll move back into the main thing, and you can leave this open and come back to it in a bit, okay? So what you're planning to do, write your answer. Question number 5, when will you do it? So will you do it within the next week, the next month, the next couple of months, when we're back in the real world? That's up to you, okay? Question 6, what do you hope will happen as a result? Write your answer and then click next. So hopefully you've done that. For people who can't do it, don't worry. You can come back to it when the session's finished, because it'll be open in a screen on your laptop or on your smartphone, okay? So click next when you're done, okay? So on the next screen, it's got, are you happy to be contacted? This would be great if you ticked yes. It just means that we can follow up your progress and report back to our commissioners to show that the Answer Cancer message is getting out into communities and cancer awareness is spreading. So click next when you're done, and then remember to click finish, and that's it. So it's quite simple, really. So I'm just going to give you a minute to get through it for those who are doing it in real time. Okay. Okay, and now if we come back into the main training, don't worry, like I said, that screen will still be open, but if you could complete it for us after the training, that'd be great, because it really is an important part of our training. It's how we measure the impact of our training, how we know that communities are benefiting from this training. So, and it's what our commissioners ask for, so we'd really, really like you to complete that form. If you've not done it now, do it at the end. Okay. So next slide up is how to be an answer cancer champion and how to sign up. So this is where we encourage all people who've come on our training who aren't already answer cancer champions to sign up to become one. Well, what does it mean to become an answer cancer champion? And do you need more training? They're usually the first things that people say, well, what does it mean? And do we need more training? I'll come on to the training part of it in a minute, but firstly, what does it mean to be a champion? Well, firstly, champions commit to passing on positive, factual messages about cancer and cancer prevention. So tick, you've done that today. So that's you, you're already a cancer champion. Secondly, you can be involved as much or little as you like. You can dip in and dip out of your volunteering as suits you. So the commitment is that you give is down to you, which is great. We like to take our champions on a learning journey with us, from A to B. Signing up gives you the chance to increase your skills, confidence, knowledge at a pace that suits you, because we offer training throughout, so you can join on and increase your skills, knowledge and confidence by signing up to those training sessions. Now some of the perks, okay? If you sign up, you'll receive regular e-bulletins and newsletters, and these will have details of all things Answer Cancer. They'll have information of upcoming training sessions and events, and the training sessions will happen in the real world when we get back there, and here online as well. So being a cancer champion gives you access to that information first up. Champions also get first dibs on booking onto training sessions, because you get the information first. This doesn't really matter at the moment in the virtual world, with virtual learning, because we can have a lot more people on our training sessions. However, when we go back to training in real life at venues that hold a certain amount of people, being able to book on first and secure your place will have its advantages. There's also access to some online learning modules and a quiz for anyone who likes to learn that way. So there's some good stuff on the website. So once you're on there, once you've signed up, have a look around and see what's on the website. It's a new website, so we're still trying to get things right on it, and it is a bit of a work in progress. So have a nosy round, see how it works. If you can't find what you're looking for, you can always email me and I'll point you to the part of the website that's got it, okay? There's also a chance that you'll also get a chance as an Answer Cancer champion to sign up to and book onto something called Train the Trainer sessions, and they'll only be available to champions. They won't be sent out to the wider community. they'll only be available to champions who want to do a little bit more and who've already completed some training sessions. Champions who may like to host a session for their group or their family or their friends or their workplace, that type of thing. There's also a new role that we're developing whereby we're trying to recruit super lead champions. This will be for anyone who wants to go the extra mile and become more involved in the project. So like I said earlier, you can be as little involved or as much involved as you like. So for those people who like to go the extra mile and be more involved and have a bit more time that they can commit to their champion activities, this might be the role for them. It's headed up by one of our lovely colleagues, Kirit. Kirit will be in touch with you all in the next week or two, detailing exactly what this offer is, and he'll explain how you can be involved. He'll send you all an email. So as you can see, there's lots of reasons for you to sign up today. So Adrian, I don't know if you've already done it. Can you put the link in the chat box?
Yeah, link is in there.
Okay, so if people want to sign up who haven't, they can click on it. Don't fill in the form now. Just click on it. That window will open. We'll come back to this session, and when this session's finished, you can then, if you've not already completed your plan, complete your plan and sign up at the same time, because you'll have both those windows open. Okay. So this is all exciting stuff. Oh, I forgot to say one last thing. When you're on the sign up page, okay, when you are signing up, it'll ask you where you heard about the opportunity, where you heard about how to become a cancer champion. Be sure to tick the training option. It's just so that we can track where people are signing up from. So tick training. You heard about it here. So if you're signing up from here, make sure you tick training. Okay. So we've also got further training opportunities. So this is for people with a nose for sniff. I think that was the slide before the dog on. I've got something on my screen. Sorry, just bear with me a second. Let me just go down a second. Sorry, my screen's just gone all daft on me. I was doing so well as well. So yeah, it has got it there. Sorry, my screen just went thingy. So for anyone with a nose for sniffing out further training opportunities, our training offer's really good. Sorry about that. My screen just went a bit strange. So like I've said, signing up to be a cancer champion is probably the best way to receive the news of our upcoming training courses, because you get news first through the e-bulletins and that. But if you're an individual and you want to know more, we've got regular training planned and scheduled across the year, and you can also find that on our website. I'll email the links to the training and to the website out later, so you'll get everything I've spoken about today in a Word document, and along with the slides and everything else, and you can access all that in your own time, so you haven't got to worry about taking websites down now. But there's a great training offer on there for individuals. Okay, we also run planned tailored training sessions. So as well as the planned and scheduled courses on offer that anyone can book onto, we also offer bespoke tailored training sessions for people and their clients if they need us to. So if you're part of a group and want to organise a training session, you can do. You can give us a call and we can work together and get something suitable for you and your clientele. We're very keen to hear from workplaces and voluntary and community sector organisations and groups who want to be involved with us. Okay. We also particularly want to work with any of the following groups. So if you're a member of any of the following groups and you'd love us to do a session, and please feel free to contact me, because we'd love to come out and do a session with you. And we know that screening uptake is lowest within those groups, and they're the people we'd most like to reach out to. So if you're from one of those groups and you'd like to organise a training session for them, please feel free to just contact me. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Okay. So I'll put all the links in an email, okay, to you. So that kind of brings us to the end of our session. So we know facts and myths, we know where to find some credible information, we know a few risk factors and how to lower them, and we know we've completed our plan, so we're going to share the learning. We've also know how to sign up to be a cancer champion and the benefits of that, and we also know about further future training opportunities and how we can access them. So that's tick for all those. So now we're going to just do some post awareness scores. This is the bit I like. So let's hope the scores have increased a little. So you all know how this works. I'll launch a poll and you just click on the scores that best describes where you are between 1 and 7. There's also a fourth question on this one, about whether you liked, it's about whether you enjoyed today's session, okay? And you just tick how you found today's session on that. We'd really, really like it if everybody completed this one, okay? Again, this is where we gain our feedback, so we know if we're doing stuff right, we know if we're doing stuff wrong. So we'd really like you to take part in these polls. Right, so, and again, it's between 1 and 7. There's the markers at 1, 4 and 7, but they're just kind of like you mark yourself where you think you are between 1 and 7. There might not be much movement in some of them because we've only had an hour, but it's just a guide really, and hopefully we've had a little bit of movement. So I'll launch the polls now. So, okay, and if you could commit to doing that for the next couple of minutes, that would be great. So again, you scroll down through the questions, the scroll bars to the right of the screen. So if you could start clicking through now, that would be great. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that, and then we can move on to some questions and answers, I think. I'm just having a quick look, having a nosy in the chat box. hopefully the links are working, but like I said, we'll send out all the links in an email afterwards, but hopefully you've got the links that you need today. Okay, we've got another minute on the, right now we've got 30 seconds left. So don't forget you've got 4 questions on this one, so scroll through all 4 questions. How confident do you feel? How much understanding do you have, and as your knowledge increase? Those are the 3 questions, and then your 4th one is about how you found today's session. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being here. I've got a little bit tongue-tied. I think it's because it's later in the day today. My words haven't come to me as easily as they should have done, but we are where we are. Okay, so 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So hopefully everybody who's wanted to vote has voted, because I'm going to end the polling now. Okay, and I'm going to share the results, and we can take a moment to have a look at them. Okay, well, unfortunately I can't do side by side. It'd be great if I could do them, and maybe if we get a little bit tech savvy, we can maybe do something and put a Word document up at this point and show the ones from before or something, or screen grab. I've not worked that out yet how to do it, but it's a shame we can't show them side by side, because that'd be really useful. So we've had quite a bit of movement on the confidence, again on the knowledge, which is great, and the screening programs. I didn't expect much movement on that one because we haven't really discussed that one yet. So thank you. I'm glad a lot of you have enjoyed the session today, so that's great. Thank you very much for your kind feedback there. Thank you. Okay, so thank you. So Right, we're quite nearly finished. So over to you, Adrian, for the question and answers. Hopefully I've got some questions for me.
Yeah,
and hopefully I can answer them.
Good questions. You've got some good questions here.
Okay.
We've got 5 questions in total. So in no particular order. So the order is appearing for me. So question about stats on the impact that a cancer champion can have.
Statistics.
Yeah. So Nihal says, I understand it's going to be beneficial, but have you got any stats about the impact of a cancer champion? I can answer because I look after evaluation in Answer Cancer. So
could you answer that for us then?
Bit of a quick answer. So I mean, I can send privately and offline lots of kind of papers and evidence about community-led approaches to cancer prevention and cancer screening programs. So I've done a lot of work around asset-based approaches and their impact. So I can kind of definitely share you some of the benefits of that and what the evidence tells us. The kind of second half of that question, I suppose, is kind of a bit of our other job in Answer Cancer. So we do have a research and evaluation worker attached to the project, Khalid, and part of Khalid's job is not just to look across Answer Cancer, but to kind of look at the impact. So we have end of year evaluations, we have focus groups, we have a big mixture of qualitative and quantitative data. We look at additionality, we look at the impact of health as a social movement. So I can tell you what the evidence tells us thus far, and we as Answer Cancer, we should also be sharing some of the evidence about what works as part of the Cancer Champion role and Answer Cancer more generally. So yeah, so we can.
So when the report's done, we share it with. It goes online and everybody can access it from there, can't they?
Yeah.
And so the Cancer Champions will get a newsletter telling them that the report's online, and they can take it from there.
Yeah.
Or they can email us and we can email it out to them. There'll be a way that they can access that report, won't there?
Yeah. Part of our job is to help evaluation and research across networks. So whilst we're doing that across Answer Cancer, we're also keen to do that and to support capacity, I suppose, out with you guys as well. So we do community research training, evaluation training. So that's going to be part of our training offer as well. So to make sure that we all get a bit better at evaluating and
yes, we all need to be better at that. Thank you very much. What a great question. What a great question. I didn't know the answer to that.
Definitely for you, Elizabeth. Is there additional training for cancer champions?
Oh yes, there is. So we're doing a series of 3. So this is the facts and myths. Next week we'll be running signs and symptoms, and we'll also, the week after, we'll be running the 3 NHS screening programs. So when we get to that poll, hopefully we'll see some movement in that poll at week 3. There's also other training. Sorry.
You ready for your next question?
So yeah, and we're running other training planned and scheduled throughout the year. So just keep checking the website. Keep checking the website. If you signed up to be a cancer champion, you'll get that information first. So as soon as I book them in, you'll get that first. Thank you for your question. Thank you. Next one.
How do we sign up for a cancer champion as part of an organisation? So I think 2 bits to that. Maybe how you sign up as a cancer champion organisation, and if you're part of an organisation, how does it work?
Okay. So I'm sure on the website there's an organisational sign up link. Okay, and so you can sign up your organisation. If from there you want some training for your organisation, some bespoke tailored training organisation, you can contact me. I'm not 100% sure if you can actually request it through the website, but you can get it through me. Or once you've signed up, you'll be then privy to emails, news bulletins, and all stuff like that. So your workers could then join onto a session like today. You can share the information with them, and hopefully we can get a few onto today. So there's 2 ways. You sign up yourself, you sign up your organisation, you get people in your organisation to sign up, and they can access the information as an individual, or you can request a session from me and we can tailor something for your organisation at a time that suits your workers. So that's important as well to factor in, because they might not all have the ability to do some training in their own time, because they might have large families, other commitments outside of the workplace. So yeah, thank you, great question. Hopefully I've answered it. I'm answering as best as I can. If you're not quite getting the answers you want, you can email me and I'll have more time to kind of think about it and give you the links and stuff like that. So hopefully you're getting the answers you want, but if you feel that that didn't quite cut it, please feel free to email me again and I'll try and answer them a bit better. Next up, Adrian.
Yeah, so we have 2 more questions, and we've got Nikki, who said that Nikki would love to sign up for her organisation. Brilliant. We look forward to seeing you a bit more than if you're going to sign up as a cancer champion and find out the news. So next question. So the next question's around apps. So these are kind of, and the question from Hiren, what about cancer aid apps, which is for patient support? So do you know about that, Elizabeth? Because I know a little.
Unfortunately, I don't. My kind of work is promoting cancer awareness and cancer screening, so I'm not really aware of the other side of it, of the cancer support app. Sorry about that.
Well,
so
that's good.
I
do. I know.
Fantastic.
Because I've done some work previously around apps for kind of other long-term conditions as well. So I do know that Cancer Aid, I think it's an app that has been developed from outside of the UK. So I know that it's been used in other countries very successfully and very well, and it helps an awful lot of people. And there's no reason why, if it's a good app, if it works for you, there's no reason why that individuals here could kind of access that as well. So
what is it, Adrian, if you don't mind me asking?
So it's kind of, I don't know much about kind of the app itself, but it's kind of one that kind of provides, kind of support and advice and information across somebody living with and beyond kind of cancer as well. And it's I suppose it's part of the kind of increasing kind of number of kind of online digital kind of support things that we have for patients or for people.
And we'll probably be moving more towards that in this world we live in.
Yeah, so the NHS kind of officially, kind of, I know it does kind of officially recognise a number of different apps, and you can find those on the NHS app library. So there's only about 5 that are official NHS apps. So there's one around for breast cancer support. That was one that got kind of recognition recently around cancer fatigue, and there was the first app of its kind. So they are out there. There will be other apps that kind of, there's nothing stopping you from using them, that will provide you kind of support. So, whatever works for you, kind of either living with or living beyond cancer, then definitely access them. So I hope that's kind of given a bit of a wider kind of context. I'm
glad you're here this evening, because I'd have been stuck. I'd have been getting back to people with answers to them too. But again, what a great question.
Michael, that might test you, Elizabeth. So this is a question about reheating food and reheating leftover food. So the question from Michael is, when we reheat and eat leftover food, does that increase the risk of cancer? And I know a bit about this as well, so
I'm going to say no. I'm hoping I'm right. There's more risk of food poisoning in that, and that's about not reheating the food to a high temperature to kill off the bacteria. Therefore, it can lead to more food poisoning. So we get more tummy aches and sickness and diarrhea things from that. So there's just about reheating safely.
Yes.
I've not heard of it causing any cancers.
Okay, so I mean, that would have been my answer too. The first thing you should look out for with reheating food is probably your risk of food poisoning.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot more obvious and a lot more immediate, and that's especially true if you either during or after cancer treatment, regardless of what that treatment is, cancer in its treatment can weaken the immune system. So that means it's harder for your body to protect itself from foodborne illness. So be particularly, I mean, if you're not vigilant anyway, you have to be particularly vigilant if you are going through or immediately after cancer treatment. But there was actually some reporting a couple of years ago about reheating food, which came after an article that was published on the back of a report from a European food agency. And what this kind of food agency said was that because of the increased risk of nitrates in leftover
Okay.
food that's been reheated, there has been some evidence of increased nitrates being carcinogenic. And this was reported in a newspaper from the European Food Agency, as I said. And actually they were challenged by, I think it was a student, I'm sure it was a guy who actually lived in Hong Kong or something. But anyway, he was challenged and he took them up on it. And actually the European Food Agency had to retract its evidence because
Right.
kind of like most things, it's kind of never clear cut. So
Yeah.
nitrates and processed food we know can be bad, but most of our nitrates in the body comes from vegetables. And actually consumption of vegetables is really, really kind of quite good for us as
Yeah.
well. So it's kind of one of those where it's kind of a little bit kind of mixed and it's not quite kind of clear cut, if you like. So, you know, vegetables, nitrates and vegetables. So beetroot, for example, has got a high nitrate content, and that reduces your risk of blood pressure. So
Beetroot's a superfood, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. So the answer to your question, we're doing a little bit of an essay, you know, when you answer an essay.
Yeah, we're going to go with no.
Be vigilant more because of food poisoning.
More because of food poisoning.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that's answered that, Michael. So
Yeah.
I think we've come...
Have we got any more? So if you've got any more, now's the time to put them in there, because we've got 1 minute and we're a little bit over time tonight. But if anyone's got any questions, no?
No more
Okay.
sneaky ones. That's good.
Okay. So that now brings us to the end of today's training. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Thanks for all your great questions, and the participation throughout the night has been fantastic. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time out to join us tonight. Hopefully you'll book on and we'll see you again at the other training sessions in next week and the week after. Thanks for taking the time to complete your plans, those who completed them tonight. If you haven't, when you close this, remember you've got your screen, complete them then, because we'd really like that. Remember to sign up to be a cancer champion, and hopefully we'll see you again online or in real life soon, whichever, preferably in real life, but we'll settle for online. So I'm going to leave that one there. So there'll be an email dropping into your email box tomorrow from Zoom. It's got an equal opportunities form on it that we'd like you to fill in as well. It's our way of making sure we're reaching the people in the communities we want to reach. And it's just important for us to be able to get that information so we can continue to offer these training sessions. So please take a moment tomorrow to complete it and send it back to us. And we'll be getting all the information that we've talked about tonight over to you in the next couple of days. So that's it, I think. So from me.
Yeah, good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Good night from me, and it's good night from...
It's not the Ronnies.
I know, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye
you.
now. Bye. Bye.